The Full Spectrum Podcast, presented by Champions and Legends. Champions and Legends produces hemp-derived CBD sports supplements for athletic preparation, performance, and recovery. This is the Full Spectrum Podcast with Big Data and Maverick, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Good evening, Mr. Big Data. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. How you doing, Maverick?
I'm good, buddy. I'm I was perusing the internet all week, trying to get us material, see what's been happening. A lot of stuff happening in the world of sports this week and just in the world in general. I don't even know where to start, but, I think I'm going to start with this. It's sports-oriented, and it's got a little combination of two things I love. Sports and my passion for dancing. And follow me on this. The Olympics, unfortunately, like everything else, got canceled this year. COVID reared its ugly head. It was supposed to be over in the beautiful country of Japan this year. However, obviously that got canceled. So they went back to the drawing board. They said, hey, the Greeks back in the day, they put this together. What are we going to do to bring the spectators back? Some guy put his hand up, probably some just great country that really respects this. It's breakdancing. Breakdancing has made it into the 2024 Olympics. I've never been more happier. The pop and lock is back, baby. I love it.
So when you are in the Olympics, do you get to use your real name or your break-in name?
Oh, dude, that's such a great idea. I don't know. And you know what? What kind of combinations are they going to have? Like, I know I was kind of joking, but not joking. Pop and lock is a style of dance, breakdancing. I wonder if they're going to have all the different kind of combinations of dancing. But that's a great. You know what? They got to be using their country. The flag is there for sure, and then probably their street name or their break name.
Because I don't want to break any news on this podcast, but listeners, Maverick's name was Crazy Legs.
Hey, you know what? Stop pumping me up because you know how much I love this stuff. I'm such a huge enthusiast of this stuff. You guys have no idea. A couple of years ago, here's a quick little story. I was in Vegas. I had 7 hours before my flight. It was one of those late flights out, early checkouts. And it was a world championship was happening in the casino I was staying at. Me and my buddy, we bought tickets. We ended up watching the whole event. Team Philippines, not to be messed with. Just my early prediction heading into the 2024 Olympics.
And maybe Maverick has some juice on them already.
Hey, you never know. Future bets. That's where the money's at, my friend. From there, let's jump over to what's happened on the social media. And it's boxing, it's entertainment, it's a combination of everything. A couple of weeks ago, this guy, Logan Paul, he got into the ring with Nate Robinson, knocks him out. And now the Paul family, there's a Logan and there's, another brother. I can't remember that guy's name.
Jake.
But Jake, thank you. He's going to fight Mayweather on February of 2021. And this Logan Paul guy goes, hey, my bigger brother's got a huge fight on his hands. I need a big name. So what's he done? He goes to the internets. He goes on the social medias. And he absolutely destroys Conor McGregor, calling him everything under the sun, every name you can possibly think of, mocking him, calling his fiance a 4, calling Dana White every name under the book, and then on top of it says, hey, I'm going to still offer you $50 million guaranteed to take this fight. Big Data, should Conor McGregor strap on the gloves and take this kid out, or is he actually maybe scared of taking this guy on?
I think Conor and Mayweather should get together again, cut out these Paul boys, and fight again.
You know what? That's exactly how it is. But you know what? You got to give these Paul guys a little bit of respect. They're overdoing it for real. They are. With all due respect to these guys, I'm not against anyone trying to make some money, but they're overdoing it. They're getting a little too personal to the point where I don't think they have any respect. But these guys carry such a huge following. Their followers have been growing and growing that even a McGregor, even a Mayweather, they know that for big paydays, they have to fight these guys. These are guaranteed $100 million all day long paydays for sure.
I mean, take the money. Take the money.
Well, speaking of that, and great segue, you called me the other day. You're like, Maverick, bottom line, this week, NBA starts on December 22nd. we have to do an NBA preview show because this is my bread and butter. This is what I was born to do. I said, sure, no problem. Two big things happened. We're going to do the NBA preview show right now for you. But hours ago, Mr. Yanni, Mr. Milwaukee Bucks, has signed 5 years, 228 mega contract. Big data. How disappointed is Toronto, Miami, and Golden State that Yanni is going to stay in the Midwest USA?
Yeah, it's a huge blow for these teams that were clearing cap space or making sure they had enough, trade assets to get Giannis. It's a bold move by him. He's doing what every small market dreams of, where the star says, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm going to stay here. Let's win the championship here." And I got to applaud him for it. Too many guys take the easy way out, look for the other superstars to help them get the title. Kevin Durant. So you got to applaud him. Milwaukee once lost a great player to the Lakers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, back then Lou Alcindor. And this time, hey, they're 1 for 2 now. They're 50%. Pretty good odds. Way to go, Milwaukee.
I don't know, man. I got to be honest with you. I feel like this is a little bit of a cop-out. I know it's a lot of money. I know Giannis is two-time MVP. But I don't know, man. I mean, he goes to Golden State. You might as well just hand him over the Larry O'Brien trophy right away. I mean, he's kind of showing me that he wanted some money before he wants his championships. We'll get into that a little later. But Big Data, give everybody this week the NBA preview show for the Eastern Conference, please.
You got it. So, yeah, we're going to break up the NBA preview into 2 parts. We'll do the West next week. I was actually going to do the West today because the champions reside in the West, the Los Angeles Lakers.
True.
But Giannis' news switched everyone's focus back to the East. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give you who I think is going to make the playoffs in the East in order. And then after the playoff contenders, I'll even go through the dregs of the East and let you know, in case your favorite team is on the lower tier of the East.
You are a dedicated soul, sir. Go ahead.
Try my best. So let's start. So I think the first seed in the East will be the aforementioned Milwaukee Bucks. They have a big 3 now. We've got Giannis, we've got Chris Middleton, and they acquired Jrue Holiday. So this big 3 actually is going to be the most expensive big 3 ever.
Okay.
Next season alone, the 3 of them are going to be paid $101 million, and it'll go up yearly from there.
Just those 3 players are $101 million.
That's right. The most expensive big 3 of all time.
That's awesome. That's you know what? No one would have came up with that.
So you better win the number 1 seed in the East when you're paying that kind of dough. So the real question, though, Brook Lopez is a big part of the Bucks. His 3-point shooting and post play, but mostly his 3-point shooting really opened things up for Giannis. He's 32 years old now. He's a behemoth. You got to think at some point he's going to start slowing down or get a little less athletic. So, going with that, I think the Bucks, they're going to crush the regular season. I think they're going to have the best record in the league. But again, the question always persists, what about the playoffs? So basically, they kind of scapegoated Eric Bledsoe. He was part of the Jrue Holiday trade. So now we're looking to Jrue Holiday. Is he going to be better than Bledsoe in the playoffs? Likely he will be. But we'll see if they have enough. They're a really thin roster now with all that money going to those 3 guys. The bench is pretty thin. Could be a big problem for them going forward in the season, especially with this shortened season. It's 10 games less, but the games are a little bit more compressed. So we'll see if they can do it. Second place in the East, I think, will be last year's Eastern champions, the Miami Heat. I think the Heat will be better this season than they even were last year. I think last year they got a pretty good draw, and that's why they were able to make the finals. And they had a good showing even with their injuries. They won 2 games against the Lakers. Robinson, Hero, and Bam. They're all really young players. They're going to keep getting better. But the real question is, they didn't really do too much to improve their team from last year. And the question is, can Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic both stay healthy and be able to replicate what they did last year? So that's the big question mark. Number 3, I think, is going to be the Toronto Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sleep on the Raptors. The last few years, especially last year, there's Vegas puts out the the over-unders for every team's wins, and this year, it's a 72 game season. They're saying the Raptors are going to be 42-30, which is basically a 60% winning clip, which is not bad. Well, last year they said the Raptors, in a traditional 82 game season, were going to win 45 games, and the Raptors won 58 and ended up being the number 2 seed in the East. So I can't believe that people are going to overlook them 2 years in a row. So far, OG Anunoby and the rookie Malachi Flynn look really good in the preseason, and you can't sleep on previous champions Fred VanVleet, Lowry, Siakam, Norm Powell. I think you got a lot to look forward to with the Raptors this year, and I think they're, again, going to surprise in the East.
I like their combination. This team has been together for many years. That's my choice. That's my hot pick of the week.
I love it. Now, some people will be thinking, hey, wait a minute. What about those Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, what about the Nets?
So we have, Vegas is expecting them to win 67% of their games coming up this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. KD and Kyrie have both been out for a really long time. They haven't played in like a year and a half or more each. KD obviously is coming off a serious Achilles injury. And then he's also, he hurt himself again in the finals against the Raptors. He's been out for a really long time. They're going to have to manage him a little bit. Kyrie had knee problems and elbow problems and head problems, you name it, problems. He's been out for a really long time too. So I'm expecting them to play 50 of the 72 games together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in those other 22 games, even if they can kind of manage it against the weaker teams, I think that'll really hurt their record. And that's why I'm expecting them to be in 4th place.
Well, I'll tell you this. And what about he's got a bad attitude, He's calling out LeBron, saying not so nice things. Karma, my friend. Karma will bite them in the ass.
Oh, he's in trouble. And then next, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers. A lot of people have them picked really high this season. Vegas expects them to have a 7.78 winning percentage.
Really?
Are you kidding me? They traded Horford. They traded Richardson and some picks. They balanced the roster. They saved some money. Curry was a great pickup from Dallas. They got Danny Green, who I think is running on fumes, and I don't know how much he has left in the tank. Simmons and Embiid have yet to show that, like, together they can make it through a lot of games. So they have so many question marks. I don't know how Vegas thinks they're going to win almost 4 out of every 5 games. I just don't see it, and I have them slotted in the 5th seed coming up this season.
Can I just tell you, I think that's still high. Go. I actually don't even think they're going to make the playoffs.
That is extreme, Maverick.
Yeah, I know.
We haven't got to the bottom of the East. You'll see there's some real bad teams down there. Next, but people will be saying, hey, where are those Boston Celtics? They were in the Eastern Conference Championships last year.
Yeah, man.
Tatum and Brown, they're ready to get even better offensively, defensively. They're awesome. But you know what? They lost Gordon Hayward. He was one of their playmakers. And Kemba Walker is injured, and he's not even going to be evaluated again until January. Kemba could be in some trouble here, health-wise. And, other than that, they didn't do too much to their team this year. They mostly lost more than they gained. And I think they might have some magic in the playoffs, but I think they're going to have a regression in the regular season, and I'm putting them in sixth place. And now here's where it gets a big drop off. It gets a little ugly.
Sure.
So kind of alone, I think, in seventh place, we're going to have the Indiana Pacers. Ho-hum, they got a new coach. They pretty much have the exact same players. And frankly, there's not much to get excited about. The Pacers, yeah, they're good. They're okay. They're not bad. That's about all you can say. Not very exciting. A little more exciting, who I think will be the last team to make the playoffs, Washington Wizards.
Really?
Yeah, they traded John Wall for Russell Westbrook.
Right.
Bradley Beal is the leader of their team. And they have a pretty good set of young guys. They've got Rui Hachimura. I love the Gonzaga alums.
Yes, absolutely.
And who they're calling now the Mensch off the bench, Israeli rookie Danny Avdija. People are really high on him. And they spent a lot of money to keep their shooting. $80 million for Davis Bertans. I think they've got the makings of a decent team. And, Westbrook, although his shooting has really gone badly, he still averaged, he had a streak last year where he was averaging 31 points a game for a big stretch of the season. So he's still a powerful player, and I think the Wizards are going to make it. Now, the bottom of the East, the teams I don't think are going to make the playoffs. Let's get it through them really quickly, except for this team. I said don't mess with the Bogdan earlier in our season. Well, Bogdan Bogdanovic ended up being signed by the Atlanta Hawks. They went even more Euro with Danilo Gallinari being signed as well.
Yes.
Great for their offense. But hey, Atlanta doesn't really have any offensive problems. Man, do they have some serious defensive problems. They're soft. And they also have a duplication. They have Clint Capella at center. And then they also have John Collins as their power forward backup center. They can't play together, really messes up their flow on offense and their defense. So I'm going to say lots more firepower, but the Hawks will miss the playoffs. Next up, Charlotte. Exciting young team. Washington, Graham, and they got LaMelo Ball now in the draft. They're pretty exciting players, but terrible defense, too many turnovers, too young of a team. They're not going to make the playoffs.
Even with the ball. What if the dad comes off the bench?
maybe if the dad does, he's a lot more sturdy than LiAngelo here. He's 6'8" and he's only like 175 pounds, so I don't think that's going to cut it in the NBA yet. Next up, we got Orlando Magic. I mean, they made the playoffs the last few years, but again, it's the same team. Jonathan Isaac is one of their good young players, but he got hurt last year towards the end of end of the season. I think it was in the bubble he got hurt, so he's out for this year as well. I think in the end, Aaron Gordon and Vucevic are going to be trade candidates. I don't think Orlando's going to run with this group again for the whole season. I think they're going to start trying to make some moves and start yet another rebuilding act. Next up, we got the Bulls. Kobe White's pretty exciting. We'll see about they kind of did a bit of a wild card in the draft with Patrick Williams from Florida State, although I saw him play in the preseason. He looked pretty good. Big problems, though. Lauri Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr., they're high draft picks. And for whatever reason, they just haven't panned out with the Bulls. And Zach LaVine, he's all show, no substance, empty calories, and that's why the Bulls – he's not going to be very good this year.
That's a great, that's probably one of the best descriptions of that guy I've ever heard in my life. That's awesome.
We got a couple teams left. We got the Knicks. I really like the Obi Toppin pick. I think he's going to be the rookie of the year. R.J. Barrett's also going to need to show some progress this year. I think they have Mitchell Robinson as well, so they have a nice young core. But man, lots of holes on offense, holes on defense. There's just not a very good team. And then last and possibly least, the Detroit Pistons. Again, not much excitement. Blake Griffin is still one of the best players in the NBA when he's healthy. Unfortunately, he's not healthy very often. He makes a ton of money, but I think he'll be a trade candidate this year. I think Detroit will look to move him at some point if he looks healthy. Someone might bite on it. But other than that, unfortunately, not much to look forward to in the Motor City.
Wow. There you go, full spectrumites. You just got the full NBA Eastern preview from the big data. It's Milwaukee that's going to take the East. And who's going to be last? It's you, Detroit. And you know what, Detroit, you guys used to be somebody one time, a long time ago. I hope that one day you guys can return to glory. I like your picks. The only one that, I'll be honest with you, the Indiana one, that one right down the middle, they are always forgotten. And then another one is the not so much the Raptors, but I think Boston. I think you got them a little low. But hey, you know what? You know this stuff better than me. Bottom line, everyone's going to be coming out gunning for Boston after what they kind of did to everyone in the bubble. So you know what? I really like your picks. I'm excited, and more importantly, this $101 million that Yanni, Middleton, and Holiday are going to combine to be as of next year. That intrigues me because, like I said, you couldn't put those three together ever. No one's got that on any sort of list anywhere that these guys are the three highest paid threesome in the NBA. I love it. From there, let's go over to the NCAA real quick. The championship committee got back together. They said, hey, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, let's list them. It's Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. But what's really intriguing is that the ACC championship is taking place this weekend. It's Notre Dame, number 2, against number 3, Clemson. It's a rematch of what happened over in South Bend. Big data. Who do you think will win in the rematch?
Well, one person who has already lost is the coach of Clemson, Dabo Swinney. He's whining again. I know we've talked about this several weeks in a row now. He's whining about Ohio State potentially making the playoff with having only played 6 games after the Big Ten championship. He's trying to set the stage for that, when, or what he thinks, if Clemson beats Notre Dame, that both Clemson and Notre Dame will still make it to the playoff. I tend to agree with him. They look like two of the best teams, but I think if Notre Dame wins, I don't think Clemson should be in the playoff. Dabo disagrees. But hey, I think with Trevor Lawrence playing, there's a good chance Clemson will pull it out.
Well, you know what? I think that I'm on the sentiment of what you're saying, and I'll add this. I think that it's necessary no matter what happens in the game this weekend. And by the way, it's going to be Clemson. They're going to win, and they're going to trash Notre Dame. But it still should be number 1, Alabama, number 2, Clemson, number 3 will be Notre Dame, and number 4 should be Ohio State. Because really, when you look at the 5th team and you look at the 6th team, the Florida and the Mississippi States, their caliber of play compared to these other 4, they're going to get thrashed. You want the best 4 teams? These are your best 4 teams, no matter how crappy the situation of Ohio State being of only playing 4 games. It is what it is. I don't like the fact that they're getting kind of like, I don't want to say a handout, but they are kind of getting a handout. It is what it is. The COVID has wreaked its ugliness all over the league, and we go from there. But I am intrigued to see, because I think Clemson is absolutely going to go out and just murder Notre Dame. I think there is some payback. I know a lot of people are going, but they took them the first time. I don't know what it is. This Clemson team's tough. Don't mess with them, and they're a different team when Mr. Lawrence is at the helm.
I just want to give a quick shout-out to the Coastal Carolina team.
Yeah, damn right.
They pulled it out with a last-minute touchdown. They're still undefeated. And, hey, it would be nice to see a Cincinnati or a Coastal Carolina get in the playoffs.
I would love to see it, but let's just for argument's sake, they get in as the number 4. They knock out Ohio State, and they're the number 4, and they take on Alabama. As much as I would love to see it, and they deserve to be there, and it's a fun Cinderella story, Alabama will absolutely destroy this poor team. You know what? Let them be the fourth and the fifth best team. Let them put up their own banners and tell everyone how they're the rooster in the hen house and they're taking care of everything and they're doing whatever. But, man, if Alabama gets their hands on them, it's lights out. Let's call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is. From there, let's go over to the NFL. What a crazy week again. We are down to the final 3 games of the regular season. And with the playoff scenarios being what they are, this is the fun time of the year. You know, wins mean everything. Losses mean everything because all it takes is one and you might be knocked out of the playoffs with how tight a lot of these are. Now, I will quickly talk about one game, and it's the Monday Nighter. It's my favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens, and my favorite player, Lamar Jackson, against who? Their division rivals, the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield. Look, great win by Baltimore last night. Lamar did some fantastic stuff. Yes, I am giving him accolades. This is what I'm going to do because I'm down the middle guy. I'm the guy that's going to tell you when he does well and when he does bad. But here's the thing. He didn't win that game. Cleveland lost that game. And here's the last part. As long as Lamar is doing what Lamar did last night, they will be very good. And dare I say, I might make my bold prediction. I'll make it next week. I need to see one more thing. But when Lamar's running and people are scared of him running, then the passing game opens. A lot of people are going to say, well, he had 168 yards passing yesterday. Yeah, he did. But those passes, with all due respect, go back to the highlights. Go look at Hollywood Brown's catch. Go look at Mark Andrews' catch. They were wide open because when he started rolling out to the side and all those defensive backs started realizing, Lamar's running, we got to go after him. Those guys became wide open and he threw him a nice little ball, got him the ball, and scored touchdowns. For me, I'm sorry, Cleveland, you're close. You're almost there. For years, you guys have been waiting to beat the Pittsburghs. You've been waiting to beat the Baltimores. You've been waiting to beat even the Cincinnatis. You're one step away. Next year is probably your year. Not this year. You are going to make the playoffs, but Baltimore's going to eat your lunch again if you guys see them. Bottom line, Lamar, good on you. Keep doing that. Just keep running on the outside and throwing those passes, buddy. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Big data. What a game, though.
Whoa.
What a game.
Fun game.
That's why we love football.
Exactly.
Everybody I knew who was watching it was just happy to watch it, even if they didn't have a rooting interest. And that's what makes the NFL the NFL. It's prime time.
Now, here I wanted to talk about what happened with Lamar late in the game. But why? Because it's kind of part of the next segment. It's pump and dump. Go ahead, Big Data.
Pump and dump. Playoff edition. For all of those that made your fantasy football playoffs, you're either happy or like me, very sad because I had a really rough playoffs. But enough about me. I'll probably let you know the pumps. That'll probably have you moving on. And the dumps, you're like me, out of the playoffs. So let's start with the QBs. Not much changed, actually, for the whole season. Again, Mahomes, Murray. Now Aaron Rodgers is ahead of Russell Wilson and then Josh Allen. So Rodgers is moving up in the top 5. And we'll probably get to this soon on another podcast, in his MVP chase, which is pretty remarkable at his age.
Exactly. One thing I just want to say, major respect to Allen. I have to start giving the guy some praise. This guy's been playing some knockout football the last 3 weeks. Unreal.
You know who hasn't been playing really good football? Last week it was Matty Ice, Matt Ryan. 9 points against San Diego. If you had him in the playoffs, you've gone home. 3 interceptions he threw. Ouch.
He is the most overrated player I've ever seen, maybe ever in the NFL.
Going to the running backs, Dalvin Cook used to be ahead by a mile. Derrick Henry is right on his heels. And then Kamara, and then Robinson. And then I'll pick on a guy I've been picking on already this season. When you don't have the best offensive line on the game, then we can really see how good a running back you are. Zeke Elliott, 5 points against a terrible Bengals team. Ouch.
It's over.
Wide receiver, still kind of the same. We got Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, then our favorite DK Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson. Bottom wide receiver, I'm going to call someone out who let down a lot of fantasy playoff teams this week. Bob Woods, LA Rams. 3 points. Come on.
Why do I have a feeling he was on your team? Why do I have this feeling he was on your team?
Top tight end. Now, this really is by a mile. Travis Kelce has like 42% more points. I just made that up, but he has a lot more points than the next tight end, Darren Waller, and then Tunyon's in third place. And I'm going to call out a bottom tight end this week. And he's starting in 10-team leagues. Evan Engram, 1 point this week. Come on.
Yeah, they had a bad outing this week, but you know what? I still got a little love for that guy. I think he's got a couple left. He's got a couple points left in the old shelf for his fantasy owners.
You got it. And then we've got a little bit of a change in the defensive ranks for a long time. The Steelers are still number one, but we have a new bottom defense. Again, picking on Detroit. Sorry, the Detroit Lions.
Oh, wow.
The worst defense in the NFL in fantasy. And, of course, who cares about the kickers?
Oh, exactly. You know what? As you were talking about the kickers, and I was like, oh, we're going to talk about them. I'm like, what am I thinking of? I actually wrote down a question for next week. Get ready for a great debate next week. Is Detroit the worst sports city in North America? I'm writing that down. I'm thinking about I know the Tigers, their baseball team had a little success a couple of years ago, but the Pistons, garbage. The Lions, super garbage. The baseball team's not doing what they used to. And then I just got to think and look at Michigan this year. Look at Michigan. You know what? I might be onto something here. Let's go to it. From there, let's go to the great debate. It's a great one that came up just a couple of hours ago. We said it. Yanni signed in Milwaukee, mega contract, 5 years, $228 million. Not a bad day. But the thing was, every team that had even better players, more caliber, maybe even more money to go get other guys to help him out and the rest of the team, he said no. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, and I love the Yanni, it sounds like he took money over championships. Big data, put yourself in the situation. Do you think players today are more about the money or are they more about the championships?
Listen, not all great players are destined to win a chip. There's a lot of variables. There's one variable you can control, and that's fat checks. So I got to say, it's the money, stupid.
Here, I'm gonna say this, and I think I'm gonna win this debate. This might be 2 out of 3 weeks. Watch this, everybody. So I told you I've been reading that book, Dynasty. It's the accumulation of the New England Patriots and their dynasty over the last 20-something years that they've been, right? And here's the one thing. Who's the GOAT in the NFL? And there isn't really that big of an argument about it anymore. It's Tom Brady. Tom Brady never was making the most amount of money when he could have easily desired and wanted it. He kept taking less money so that the team can get the right personnel in the right situations and win championships. And now he's considered the GOAT. And he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm not even counting what his beautiful wife Giselle brings to the table. Tom Brady's still a millionaire. He's always going to have tons of money. He's got generational money. His kids are never going to worry about it, right? And he's now the GOAT of all time. In a sport where you could easily be like, it could be Jerry Rice, it could be Joe Montana, but you don't have those conversations. It's pretty fair to say that Tom Brady took less money to be a champion. And because these guys do make bank, man. This isn't the 1940s where these guys are making $100,000 a year. Like a Terry Bradshaw, think about this guy. He paved the way for a lot of guys, and he's got to look at some of these contracts and be like, man, why couldn't my parents meet years later kind of thing, right?
I got to fight you on this.
Oh, I love it. Go. I like it. Go.
When your wife makes $50 to $60 million a year, you might give your employer a little bit of a break on your pay so you can have some better teammates. If his wife wasn't making that kind of money, he would have never done it.
Oh, I don't know. You know what? All I hear is how tenacious throughout the book. Earlier today, I was listening to a podcast where Akeem Talib was on there, and he kept saying, man, Tom Brady is like the most ferocious guy on the practice field. There are certain guys that are just wired this way. You know what? Leave it to the full spectrum listeners to figure this one out. I think this one, maybe we're going to call a draw, but I still think I have the edge. I think my points have been well said right now. Bottom line, there it is, the full spectrum. Big Data, take us out.
The Full Spectrum Podcast, presented by Champions and Legends. Champions and Legends produces hemp-derived CBD sports supplements for athletic preparation, performance, and recovery.
Have a great week, everyone. Can't wait to talk to you next week. And it's the Christmas special and the NBA Western preview. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, listeners. Bye-bye.